It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the morning star drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, July 12th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Tuesday? We've got current news from around the world, looking into the story of King David, and question and comment on skincare routines. All right, everyone, how are you doing today? Yes, I hope you guys are having an amazing week. Monday is in the books, and I'm not really at home. I'm not at home. I'm not really. I am actually not at home right now. I'm at an Airbnb with the guys here from San Francisco, and it's considered quiet time from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So I have to be very, very quiet as I record this. At the moment, it's like 6:30 in the morning. It's 6:30 in the morning on Monday as I record this because I have to get a lot of things done early before we go out today. So really thankful for all of you guys joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. And keep liking and commenting, and I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. Let's build this English-speaking community over here. Yesterday, super amazing day. Actually, it was one of the most relaxing days. So I told you that Saturday was crazy. You know, like taking that red eye flight, and then, you know, not even going straight to Vancouver. We drove another 3 hours from Seattle to Vancouver. Got rejected at the border. You know, it was just a crazy day. Okay, and then we played volleyball on top of that. Sunday was a little bit different. So of course we had Sunday service and everything else, and these guys, it's the first time they've all been here to Vancouver. Instead of going, so we were supposed to go boating, and we're gonna do that today instead. But we went to the seawall. So those of you guys don't know, in Vancouver, one of them, like the places that everyone has to visit, is called the seawall. It's in downtown Vancouver, huge park, but the park is like on the edge of the water. And they have this wall it's a 10-kilometer wall that goes all the way around. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've driven through it and I've ridden a bike once through it, but I've never had like a really, really good time because it's tiring. Like, you know, going 10 kilometers or you're walking or running, whatever it is. Sometimes you walk like maybe 5 kilometers, then you walk back the other way. It really, really depends. But it was, I think the Holy Spirit spoke through another friend of mine, and they're like, oh, we went and rented e-bikes. And I was like, oh, e-bikes, right? So we went to rent these e-bikes, and we went around the entire 10 kilometers. Plus, after that, we took the whole 10 kilometers, and then we biked to Canada Place, where all like the cruise ships are. You know, it's kind of another like monument or whatever you call it, a sightseeing spot. And then we biked into downtown to Robson Street, which is like the shopping capital, not capital, but it's like the shopping center of downtown. This one street that goes down for like 3 or 4 kilometers. And we did it all in an hour and 40 minutes because we have these e-bikes. And then I think this is one of the most amazing things. And if you guys ever come to Vancouver, we're gonna take you on this e-bike trip. We're going uphill, and you don't sweat because the bike is doing everything for you. That's how easy it is. It was such a relaxing time, like really relaxing. And in those hour and 40 minutes, we were even able to stop for gelato ice cream. So, you know, I was recovering from Saturday, but Sunday I thought it was going to be really hard, but it was such a relaxing time. The weather was perfect. It was like 22, 23 degrees. And I was really, really surprised and happy by it. So I'm super thankful that God created e-bikes. Guys, have you guys ever ridden e-bikes or those e-scooters? I've done e-scooters in Korea, but e-bikes is my first time, and I really enjoyed it more than anything else. So if you do, guys, come to Vancouver, make sure you talk to the members here. We will definitely take you on one of these trips. It's so cool. Today, I'm going to finally head out to Granville Island with my buddies, and then we're going to head over to, we rented a boat, a speed boat for 5-6 people. So we're going to be heading out one of those. So super happy about that too. Either way. So I am super relaxed this morning. I'm not as sore, and I'm very, very grateful and happy that I'm able to record in this private room. I'm not sure if you can hear, but the acoustics are actually not too bad in here. They're not too bad because I have like my bed mattress like right in front of me, like stood up vertically, just so that the sound doesn't bounce everywhere. So tell me how the sound is too. Would love to, I think it sounds okay, I think. Yeah. Today we're, you know what? Today's my, not the thoughts of the week. Today is question and comment. And I really want to hear about you guys out there because you know how Pastor John talked about, you care about so many things, but you need, and one thing people care about the most, well, a lot of people, and especially girls more than guys, is skincare, right? And for someone like myself, you guys look at my skin. My skin's not terrible, right? But when I was younger in high school, man, I had really, really bad acne when I was in high school, right? Now I'm not talking about like the worst, but it was something that bothered me all the time. That I was kind of I almost felt ashamed of my skin, and I think the people that I've met that have really, really good skin, a lot of them are just born with it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. A lot of them were just born with it. They don't do as much with their skin. And it's the people that have problem skin are the ones that study the most about skin. And they have these great recommendations because if their skin's not good and the product they use works, then it's like, oh, this skincare product is pretty good. You know what I mean? Like there's some people that just naturally have good skin. Right. So, and when Pastor Joan talked about it, she does talk about her skincare routine a lot, not a lot, but she does talk about it, even during her, her educations after service too. So, I want to go over some of my skincare routine, the things that I found that really worked and the new stuff that I use right now. And I want you guys to tell me, I want you guys to comment on what your skincare routine is. We'll do that at the very, very last segment. But I find that very, very interesting because many people, more than I thought, even guys, are the ones that spend a lot of time on their skin too, right? So I hope you guys will enjoy today's podcast. And I think a lot of girls are going to be looking forward to that last segment on skincare. Just a thought of mine and all those people out there who struggle with skincare. I'm going to tell you this. I've been through I would have to say at least 100 different skincare routines. I'm dead serious too. But I'll share about and talk with you guys about that also. Okay. So let's get into some member music from around the world. And let's see that, let's get into another relaxing set today. Well, not as relaxing as yesterday, but a little more upbeat, but it's still relaxing. And today's feature artist of the day is MC One Love from Australia. And I really, really like this song. It's called The Journey. And it's about, it's Daniel Patterson, and it's his journey from being a Gentile to a Christian and coming into Providence. Great song and super meaningful. Hope you guys will really enjoy this. And then we have Dialings from Korea with one of their earlier songs. It's called We're Going Up Now. And last but not least, we have J Root from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with the song World of Us featuring Seungyeon.
Poverty and anguish, that's an ill diet. You don't wanna try it. In the world so cold, got my heart in a vice hold. Power of Lord's work is my heart defibrillation. Let me spell it out for you. Too great for abbreviation. Struggling, no peace, can't even sleep. Stress creeping in, stuck in the clay and mire. Hanging by the wire, tormented by the liar. Need an escape, don't wait. Holy Spirit can relate. Only one who can pull you through. Life's a test, but we blessed. Every day's a blessing, I'm not finessing. As long as you're still breathing, there's hope to change, rearrange a new mentality. The word of truth based in reality. Call out to God, the higher power, no Jack Bauer. Making life so sweet when it is sour. Saving in the 11th hour. Life's energy was diminished, I felt like I was finished. Battery on empty, Satan trying to tempt me to get reckless with my ways. Let the truth resonate, don't hesitate. Better things await you, keep moving forward toward that breakthrough. Through the fire tribulation, new transformation. Be all you can be, find strength in the Trinity. Holy Trinity holds you down, picks me up off the ground. I was lost when I met him, I was found. Word up, word up. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history, purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history. Son, Holy Spirit, complete. Three, completely united with the triune, enlighten my path. Walk step by step, hand in hand with the Lord. Can't afford to go back, nothing remains. Friends committing suicide, people making bad choices. God hears the broken people's voices. We ride for the Lord, Messiah, Messiah. Riding on the eagle's wings, flying higher, higher. You'll be caught up, raptured. My heart is captured, my spirit has raptured. Used to carry a knife for protection until I met the Lord's affection. Resurrection, crossed from a place of death to new life introspection. Asking what's life's purpose made me nervous, no longer feel dead. I'm in love with the one holding the key to life everlasting. Hear it in your speakers blasting. Gonna get back what Satan stole from me. Do righteousness and hard work. Sick conditions, a condition. Facing my fears, Trinity hears my petition. Taking action on the word, promises coming to fruition. Rising up to a higher level. You can hear it in the bass, you can hear it in the treble. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history, purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history, purpose ain't a mystery.
새로운 자유로움이 내 안에 차올라. Nobody can describe me, I know who I am. 정해진 운명 따윈 믿지 않아, I don't care. All limitations are set by yourself. 내 길이 전에 오늘 정해져 있는 길이라고 누가 말했어요. 어느 길을 가든 내가 선택하면 가는 거지. 앞에 놓인 두 가지 길 중에
난 배우고 알았으니 자유로움이 벅차오른 이유. 날개가 돋아난 내 I'm free here. 거기에 도착한 내 덕분에
I can't help loving myself. 나만의 diamonds, 나만의 crown. One who wants to wear the crown. Wear the crown, then wear the crown.
We're going up now. Keep going, that's right. Keep moving, that's right. You ready? Be strong. We're going up now. Keep going, that's right. Keep moving, that's right. You ready? Be strong. We're going up now.
뭣도 모르고 뭣도 모르는 것들 법을 모르니 덫에 걸린 적들 있지. 난 달러만을 찾지 않아. 성공 법칙 just do it. 내 자신을 kill it. 매일 새로 태어나 아닌 그냥 자연스럽게 그리 살지 정해. 아니 연속된 굴레에서 벗어나 새롭게 깨어나.
근데 나는 집이 트랙거리던 좀 더 예쁜 톤으로 좀 더 나를 튀어나고 만들어 myself. 다 들어오른 말은 내 때를 바꿔도 Call me on the 홀로스 뭐 너도 올라가고 싶다며. 그럼 너부터 만든다며. 둘러봐 새롭지가 매다매. 졸았어도 밤에 더 빛나는 다이아몬드.
You sometimes wonder how tall I was. Just a word of us. 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 Just a word of us.
And there it is. That is J-Root from PMA in Korea with World of Us featuring Seungyeong. And before that was Dialings from Korea with We're Going Up Now. And of course, the featured artist of the day, MC One Love from Australia with The Journey. All right, everyone. So let's get into some current news going on around the world. And as Sunseem said, the 3 reasons why we watch the world news. Number 1, we got to see what God is doing in the world. And 2, see what we need to report and pray for. And last but not least, what are the things that we can comfort God's heart in? All right, so let's start off with what's going on with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And we see that the bombings over there in Ukraine, in this town called Chasiv Yar, the death toll is continuously rising, and it's up to 18 already. So Ukraine's emergency services says rescuers have pulled another body from the rubble of an apartment block in the Donetsk town. Basically, Zelensky slams the idea Russia is taking an operational pause. So air raid sirens were activated across the Black Sea port city of Mykolaiv early on Monday morning, with residents reporting loud explosions on social media. 3 rockets hit the city of Kharkiv overnight, Ukraine's Ministry of Internal Affairs reports. Ukraine's President Zelensky says there has been no let-up in Russian attacks on his country, with 34 air raids conducted in the 24 hours from Sunday night, including the attack that has so far killed 18 in the Donetsk town of Chasiv Yar. The head of Ukraine's president's office has called the Chasiv Yar attack an act of terrorism, saying Russia should be on the list of state terrorist sponsors. Also in Germany, the Nord Stream 1 pipeline carrying Russian gas to Germany starts annual maintenance on Monday, with flows expected to stop for about 10 days. But governments, markets, and companies are worried Moscow might extend the shutdown. Also, Russian forces attack areas of Luhansk-Donetsk border. This is from a report from the governor there. And Russian forces overnight launched 5 rocket attacks and 4 massive artillery strikes on populated areas on the border of the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, the Luhansk governor has said. Now, he has also been quoted as saying they're using aviation, barrel, and rocket artillery trying to break through from Lysychansk and other directions to Seversk and Sloviansk. But for more than a week, these attempts have been unsuccessful. So Russian forces were trying to advance from the Popasna direction, he added. Last but not least, we have the Russian gas. Fearing Russian gas being shut off, France's industry turns to oil. France's energy-intensive companies are speeding up contingency plans and converting their gas boilers to run on oil as they seek to avoid disruption in the event any further reduction in Russian gas supplies leads to power outages. This is from the Reuters news agency. Gathered over the weekend at a business and economics conference in southern France, several top executives said they were preparing for possible blackouts. So that is quite interesting to see. How this if they're supplying 40% of the oil and gas over there in Europe, if Russia shuts down like right now, they're in a lot of trouble. And there's going to be especially when the winters. Oh, it's not even winter. It's still summer over there because they're in the northern hemisphere. But it's quite interesting to see that. How much of a global market we've become, that we are dependent upon everyone. So one country coming out is going to affect everyone. And I do think it's kind of like a machine or even like a church. Like we don't realize how important just one person is, that if they're gone, they do affect the church in there are going to be disruptions. They could affect the church in a massive way too. So it's kind of like this week's message. We need to learn the value of ourselves, but also last week's message says we need to learn to value each other too. Okay, so that is a Russian-Ukraine crisis updates. We're going to get into other stuff going around the world, and this is a pretty big one that I thought it was very interesting. It talks about massive leaks that reveal how top politicians secretly helped Uber. Uber, like the taxi driving company, right? So thousands of leaked files have exposed how Uber courted top politicians and how far it went to avoid justice. They detailed extensive help Uber got from leaders such as Emmanuel Macron and ex-EU Commissioner Neelie Kroes. They also show how the taxi firm's former boss personally ordered the issue of something called a kill switch to prevent raiding police from accessing computers. Now, Uber says its past behavior wasn't in line with present values, and it's a different company today. So the Uber files, they are a trove of more than 124,000 records, including 83,000 emails and 1,000 other files involving conversations spanning from 2013 to 2017. So when you look at this digital era, you cannot hide. All that stuff is out there. Like you just can't erase these things, because you can erase it, but then what about the person receiving the email? They need to erase it too. So it's quite crazy how, nothing can be hidden in this time. It's kind of scary, right? So these files, the Uber files, were leaked to The Guardian and shared with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and a number of media organizations, including the BBC Panorama, and they reveal for the first time how a $90 million a year lobbying and public relations effort recruited friendly politicians to help in its campaign to disrupt Europe's taxi industry. So while French taxi drivers staged sometimes violent protests in the streets against Uber, Macron, now president, was on first-name terms with Uber's controversial boss, Travis Kalanick, and told him he would reform laws in the firm's favor. Uber's ruthless business methods were widely known, but for the first time, the files give a unique inside view of the lengths it went to in achieving its goals. And they show how an ex-EU digital commissioner, Neelie Kroes, one of Brussels' top officials, was in talks to join Uber before her term ended, and then secretly lobbied for the firm in potential breach of EU ethics rules. So at the time, Uber was not just one of the world's fastest growing companies, it was one of the most controversial It was dogged by court cases, allegations of sexual harassment, and data breach scandals. So eventually, shareholders had enough, and Travis Kalanick was forced out in 2017. And Uber says his replacement, Dara Khosrowshahi, was tasked with transforming every aspect of how Uber operates and has installed the rigorous controls and compliance necessary to operate as a public company. So one question that a lot of people have is, what the heck is this kill switch? Right, what is the kill switch that they had this power over? So basically, if the police came knocking, Uber had a second line of defense. It's called the kill switch, which made it impossible for visiting law enforcement to access the company's computers. And this would restrict officers' access to sensitive company data, such as list of drivers, which the company believed would harm its growth. So the files confirm earlier news reports about the kill switch and reveal that Mr. Kalanick himself activated the system at least once. And like they found emails of him saying, please hit the kill switch ASAP. Access must be shut down in Amsterdam. And that was one of the emails, right? And the kill switch was also used in Canada, Belgium, India, Romania, and Hungary, and at least 3 times in France. And of course, Uber now says it had no kill switch designed to thwart regulatory inquiries or anywhere in the world since the new chief executive took over in 2017. So it's pretty crazy to, all this stuff is coming out. And it's really, really interesting because, we see people stepping down like Boris Johnson, the PM, new elections, and now even we're seeing these leaks, which is like, if you're someone who's not a politician, like this gives less faith in the system. It really does when you see these leaks come out. So it's shocking, but not shocking at the same time. Last but not least, I had to give this report. It's Yosemite's Great Sequoias wildfire threatens world's largest trees. And, I was just in Northern California for a retreat. And now we have another growing wildfire in California, and it's threatening the largest grove of giant sequoias in Yosemite National Park. The Washburn Fire has doubled in size over the past 24 hours, and it is now estimated to have burned 1,591 acres. Firefighters are working in difficult terrain to protect some of the largest and oldest redwood trees in the world. Residents and campers near the fire have been evacuated, and thick smoke has worsened the region's air quality and obscured the park's scenic views. The blaze, which started on July 7th, threatens at least 500 giant sequoias in the Mariposa Grove, including the famed grizzly giant, which is thought to be around 3,000 years old. So for now, none of them have been destroyed by the fire, but the Yosemite Fire and Aviation Management Department said it was proactively protecting the grove by setting up a sprinkler system to increase humidity around the trees and by removing potential fuels from the site. The Washburn Fire has already forced nearly 1,600 people to evacuate the area, including the Wawona community located inside the national park and hundreds of campers staying close to Wawona. The cause of the fire is still being investigated, and fire officials say that warm and dry weather conditions are making it difficult to control the flames. So, like Sunstein would love to go to this area. These giant sequoias are some of the biggest trees on the planet. So the largest is this 83 meters tall and over 11 meters in diameter at the base. That's a diameter, 11 meters, which is crazy. And, basically these sequoias have this extraordinary longevity, and they can live to around 3,000 years old. So basically, one of these trees has been here before Christ. 1,000 years before Christ, which means that was there at the time of like King David. And also, and it makes him also among the oldest living things on earth. So this Mariposa Grove holds a historic place in American history as the first scenic natural area to be protected by the federal government for public use, resort, and recreation. And last year, thousands of giant sequoias were destroyed by forest fires in California. And officials say that more than 35,000 wildfires have burned across the U.S. so far this year, which is well above average. Warmer temperatures, more extreme drought conditions caused by climate change are making wildfires more common. All right, so there it is. That is the current news going on around the world. And we're going to get into some sporting news. Not a lot of sports going on, but we'll get into some golf. The Scottish Open is done, and Xander Schauffele, he's been winless in 2 years, picks up his 4th win in the last 12 months, and he wins the Scottish Open. He finishes with a 7-under score, 1 shot ahead of Kurt Kitayama. And next up for him and for everyone else is the big one. It is the British Open. Last but not least, we are looking at some F1, the Austrian GP. And it was Charles Leclerc of Ferrari. He holds on to win his first race at the Australian Grand Prix and reignited his World Championship bid. Of course, it was the Red Bull Ring that's been doing so well with Max Verstappen well ahead. I think he's like 57 points ahead of everyone else. But it's Leclerc that silenced the home crowd with an impressive drive that looked comfortable at times and very uncomfortable at others. There were a lot of car problems. But he defeated Verstappen, and it was once again, it was Lewis Hamilton from Mercedes in 3rd place. So very, very interesting to see. A lot of cars went through problems, but in the end, it was Leclerc with Ferrari, Verstappen with Red Bull, and then Lewis Hamilton with Mercedes, right? And that is the final standings over there for the F1 Austrian GP. All right, so there it is. That is the sporting news and world news. We're gonna, and now that that's done, of course, one of our favorite times right now, it is the golden time. And it is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. I hope that a lot of you guys are looking forward to this, just as the Holy Trinity is looking forward to it too. Today we're going to play a couple of great, cool songs today. I'm going to start off with Catching Light. We haven't heard that in a while. And then Let's Overcome the World. And then we'll end things off with an oldie but a goodie, I Think Only of You, Lord. All right, so as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. Like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. Those who are swift gain victory, those who are swift succeed. They wipe out Satan's and win, they wipe them out for good. One with the Trinity, rise, make yourself spiritual. And with the Spirit, take action spiritually. Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. Like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. Jehovah sent us our Lord so we could learn from Him. Let's learn from Him about God, He'll teach us properly. Let's learn ahead of time now, 'cause if we are prepared, no matter what, we can take action instantly. Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. Like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. Like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly, like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action, 'cause those who take action, they alone will see results. So let's take action fast, like the eagles above us, or like cheetahs on the earth. We can discern at once and take action. We've learned from Jehovah, if we act on what we've learned, we can be fast like God. Let's make our head the Savior and discuss our plans with Him. We can discern at once and take action.
Let's overcome the world, overcome our hardships and send our fears away. Come from our hearts and sent with the wind. On the wind of the Spirit, let your cares fly. You and I both, we must go on. Our hearts have not changed. Like the waves rising and falling, we may waver and be shaken, nevertheless we will remain on the same path until the end. Our destination set, both you and I, your hand in mine, our hearts as one. We go on as one. We must support, help each other, care for each other as we love and adore only God, the Holy Spirit. We will look up to them, longing for heaven. That's our joy, and this love never rests, now and always, just as time flows, as the waves crash endlessly. Let's overcome the world, overcome our hardships and send our fears away. Come from our hearts and sent with the wind. On the wind of the Spirit, let your cares fly. You and I both, we must go on. Our hearts have not changed.
If I live even one more day, I'll think only of you, only you, my Lord. Whether I can meet you or not, I think only of you. All day I'll think of you, just you, Lord. Wherever I am and wherever I go, oh my Lord, if you are here by my side, just as long as you are here, truly I'd be satisfied and thankful every day. You are my joy, I will go on. My love on fire, delighting you, Lord. Lord, you said love isn't a theory. It's genuine and real. Lord, you said to love truly, you must love in reality. You, my love, my true love. When will I see you again? I can't stop thinking of you all day long. Until by traveling on, if there's a small chance that we could meet, please come my way, Lord, come my If I live even one more day, I'll think only of you, only you, my Lord.
And that was I Think Only of You, Lord, a deep Shimjung song. Before that was Let's Overcome the World, one of my favorites in the past. It's still a good favorite right now. And then, of course, Catching Light. All right, so now that we have a time of praise and worship, that's all finished now, and our hearts are set and ready, let's get into today's word study. And of course, every single Tuesday, we do go over either the scriptures or maybe even a Bible story, and that's what we're going to do today, as King David has come up a lot in the last month or two. And Sunseam always mentions how great King David is. So, and a lot of us have to understand is King David is someone that is respected in Judaism, Christianity, and Providence. And he's just one of these amazing people that has, he's made his mistakes, but he was someone that recovered and always centered and focused on God. And he's one of the only people that is constantly repeated all throughout the Bible. And Jesus talks about him too. So I want to go over the story of King David for everyone. And I think it's really good that we know the story very, very well, more than anything else. So we're going to go over a quick biography of King David, and hopefully that a lot of people can gain a lot from it too. Okay, so everyone, if you understand, King David is one of the most well-known figures in the Bible, and his life was filled with much happiness and also much suffering and pain. And he has many titles like David the Conqueror, David the Pious, David the Sweet Singer, David the Shepherd, whatever it was. And King David was a descendant of Judah as well as Ruth, and was promised by God that his children would rule Israel forever. And until this very day, he is remembered by Jews everywhere who still chants his psalms in prayer in times of joy and sorrow in Judaism and Christianity too. So, and God's promise to David, it still reigns because Jesus came from the line of King David too, so he reigns forever and ever. So let's take a look at his early life first. So we know he's born in Bethlehem in the land of Judah, and he was born around 907 BC. So this, that's why you can tell those sequoias were, around when King David was around too. And he was the youngest of 7 sons, and only 10 generations removed from Judah, one of Jacob's 12 sons. And he was also a descendant of Ruth, the famous Moabite convert. So he was considered to be a very bright-eyed young, handsome man, and he used to tend the sheep of his father Jesse. Now, the people had recently anointed Saul as the first king of Israel, but Saul soon, he sinned and fell from divine grace. And then it was then that the prophet Samuel anointed David as king of Israel, and so his ascension to the throne began. So first, let's take a look at the relationship between David and Saul, right? We're going to do just a brief biography. So Saul and David's first encounter occurred when an evil spirit gripped King Saul, and his advisors suggested he bring in a skilled musician who would play for the king to ease his mind, and one of the attendants present recommended that the king bring in young David. Little did Saul know that this young man who was playing before him was destined to be his successor. So at this time, King Saul was battling the Philistines, which are longtime enemies of Israel. And in the valley of Elah, the two armies were poised for battle with nothing but a hill separating them. And the Philistines vastly outnumbered Saul's army. And of course, we know the story of David and Goliath. He appeared on the hill and his words came roaring down saying, like, let's not battle. I'm the Philistine champion, and you are Saul's servant, so choose one of your men and let him come down against me. And if he overcomes me in battle and kills me, we will become your slaves, right? But if I kill this person, that you will become the slaves of the Philistines. So they say, the Bible says he's roughly about 10 feet tall and just towering figure, right? And, none of the Jews wanted to come and meet him. And day after day, he came out with the same speech, and it took 40 days. Right, 40 days this Goliath appeared on this hill, repeating his challenge morning and evening. And then, of course, it was David, young David, just a teenager filled with courage, approached the giant with just a staff, a slingshot, and 5 stones. And with one shot, slew the giant where he stood, and he proceeded to cut off his head and presented it to King Saul. And the Philistines, witnessing this event, fled in fear, and David became a national hero. Right? So when David overcame Goliath in battle and was brought to King Saul's palace to be rewarded, he met Jonathan, the son of King Saul, for the first time. And at that moment, their love and respect for each other was first founded. So basically, the Bible even says that Jonathan's soul became bound up with the soul of David. Jonathan loved David as himself. So this bond between the two proved itself even in the most difficult of times. And later on, King Saul began to fear that David wanted his throne and sought to kill him. So despite knowing that David posed a potential threat to his place in line to the crown, Jonathan loved David and protected him from his father's attempts to have him killed. So it's quite crazy because he wanted to kill David, but then he selects David to be a warrior in his army. So David's success was so great in his battles that the verse says that the troops came home and they sung songs that David returned. It was like Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands, which made King Saul even more envious of David's glory. And he always kept a watchful eye and jealous eye on David. Now, God continued to grant David much success, and King Saul started to fear that David's fame and power would one day help him usurp the throne. And this led to a war between the two men, and it started when David was playing the harp for the king, and a cloud of fear and anger suddenly fell upon the king, and King Saul took a spear and threw it at David. And of course, by divine intervention, David managed to escape. Now, David fled south to the mountains of Judah, and he needed food and weapons, and he obtained these from the city of Nob. And at that time, Nob was a holy place, distinguished because it housed the tabernacle and the priests. Now, David was taken in and cared for by Ahimelech and his fellow priests, and this provided David with the opportunity to stock up on food and weapons. And during his stay, he was seen by Dog the Edomite, who was a servant of King Saul. Now, fearing this, David escaped the city of Gath and then sought refuge in one of the caves near Adullam, right? And that's in the plains of Judah. And it was a very secure retreat, and David's brothers and all his father's household came to him. Now, his solitary abode was soon known, and he was joined by many who were in distress or in debt or had any other reason to be discontented. Now, Dog the Edomite related news of David's whereabouts to the king. So King Saul embarks on a quest to hunt down and kill David. And there were 2 times during this hunt when King Saul was at the mercy of David. But instead of taking advantage of the situation and killing the king, David spared his life twice. And he dared not lay a hand upon God's anointed one, the king, right? And it was only after David spared his life for the second time that King Saul finally retreated and let David be. So King Saul was then waging a mighty war against the Philistines. David was in Ziklag, where he had retreated in fear that King Saul would change his mind and hunt him again. And when he heard that Saul and his son Jonathan had died in battle, David sincerely mourned the death of both Saul and Jonathan and the defeat of Israel. So after the death of Saul, David saw that the time had come for him to emerge from exile and take over the leadership of his people. He left Ziklag and proceeded to the ancient city of Hebron in Judah. And there the people of Judah gathered and anointed him king in the prime of his life. So he's at 30 years old now, the same time when Jesus became Messiah. David was wise in counsel, prompt in action, and God-fearing and earnest. And the people recognized him as the most suitable candidate for the throne in those troubled times. So King David's ascension to the throne did not go unprotested. There was Abner, previously a general in King Saul's army, felt that the crown should remain in the family of King Saul. However, his forces were beaten swiftly, and he had no choice but to acknowledge the reality of David being king over all of Israel. Now, the people swarmed to Hebron to pay homage to their beloved king and to anoint him publicly, and the occasion turned into a great national celebration that lasted for 3 days. And in time, he moved his capital from Hebron to Jerusalem. And then from then on, Israel was still surrounded by many hostile tribes, but King David maintained a standing army consisting of 12 divisions, each one representing one tribe of Israel. Each division numbered 24,000 men. Thus, King David's army totaled 288,000 men. And David knew that before there could be a real peace for his people, he would have to subdue the neighboring enemies. So he fought and subdued the Philistines, invaded Moab, slew most of their soldiers, and imposed a heavy tribute upon the people. Then King David marched against Hadadezer, king of Zobah in Syria, and whose empire extended from the vicinity of Damascus eastward to the borders of the Euphrates. And he vanquished his armies, subjected his people, and sent the best of his horses to Jerusalem. And this unparalleled succession of victories not only established King David's power, but also spread his name abroad. And he was regarded as one of the mightiest rulers of the East. So King David was, he had numerous wives. Only 8 of them are named in the book of Samuel, which is Michal, Ahinoam, Abigail, Maacah, Haggith, Avital, Eglah, and Bathsheba. While not much detail is given about these women, we do know information about some of them, right? So, Michal, I think it was his first wife, was the eldest daughter of King Saul, right? Abigail was met when King David was fleeing from King Saul, and there was a wealthy man named Nabal, and if you guys know the story, he rejects to help David, and eventually he dies, and then David takes his wife as his. And then, of course, the most famous of all we know is Bathsheba, and he was the wife of Uriah, and David fell in love and committed adultery with her while she was married and impregnated her, and then he sent Uriah off to his death. Right, and then took Bathsheba as his wife. And of course, God was really displeased with his actions and sent the prophet Nathan to rebuke him. And then, of course, David, knowing that he sinned, he basically sat in penance until God forgave him. And of course, the firstborn son did not survive. Right, so if you look at like the Jewish reasoning, the reason why King David sought to marry Bathsheba and was willing to go to great lengths to do so was because. Some people, this is what the Jewish people believe, that he saw by divine inspiration that he was destined to marry her and bear the next king of Israel. So that's what they're saying. And furthermore, even more, like before sending Uriah off to battle, he had a quick discussion with him regarding the war, and in the midst of which King David gave Uriah a command to go home, a command that Uriah did not obey. And he told the king, "The ark in Israel and Judah are located at Sukkot, and my master Joab and your majesty's men are camped in the open," right? So some people think, in the Jewish faith, they say that referring to Joab as his master in front of the king was it was considered even treasonous, right? And they said that Uriah even deserved the death penalty for his rebellion, but King David sentenced him to death under the guise of sending him to war, right? So it's quite interesting to hear the other things that other like what Judaism says about this too. So yeah. So regardless of whether his actions were justified or not, he did have to repent for it, right? And it was displeasing to God. So we know it was displeasing to God, and he had to repent. So as we know, the firstborn child would die as a consequence of his actions, and shortly after this, Bathsheba gave birth to a boy who fell critically ill, and David fasted and prayed in the hope of rescinding God's decree. But of course, in the end, the baby passed away. So David accepted this as part of his penance. He got up from fasting and prostrated before God, right? So eventually, David and Bathsheba gave birth to a son they called Solomon, which means the peaceful, but whom Nathan the prophet, blessing him in the name of God, called Jedediah, the beloved of God. So Solomon was destined to rule over Israel. Right? And, David had many other sons too, three of whom we hear a lot about is Absalom, Adoniah, and Solomon, and they became the ones prominent in the history of Israel. Absalom was the handsome one, very ambitious and charismatic prince, and he believed he was destined to be king and feared that his elderly father would pass the crown on to young Solomon, right? And so he rallied some of the greatest warriors and advisors and led a revolt against his own father, right? So when David heard about this, like his son is trying to revolt, he didn't even confront his son, right? He fled. He fled with his loyal servants instead because he didn't want to fight his own son. Absalom was determined to chase down his father, and then a bloody battle ensued, and realizing that his father had the upper hand, Absalom fled in terror and dismay, and as he was riding through the woods on his swift mule, his long locks of his hair caught in like some spreading branch of a long tree, and unable to extricate himself, he remained suspended because his mule escaped too, and then one of David's servants brought this intelligence to Joab, which is King David's general, who gave the order that Absalom be put to death. And even though Absalom had caused so much trouble for King David grieved and mourned for the death of his own son. And unfortunately, Absalom was not the only son to seek the throne. Adoniah also had grand plans to obtain the crown, but King David put an immediate halt to anything else like this happening, and he anointed Solomon right away as king of Israel. So at the age of 70, King David passes away, and it's said that before his death, he asked God to reveal exactly when he would leave this world, and God, not wishing to divulge this information, merely informed him on which day of the week he was to die, which is the Sabbath. So David made sure to be constantly studying the Torah throughout every Sabbath so that the angel of death would not be able to take his soul. And when David's time on earth came to an end, the angel of death distracted the king from his learning by shaking the trees in his garden. The king climbed the stairs to see what the commotion was, but one of the steps broke underneath his feet, startled the king paused from his studies, and it was that moment that the king passed away. Right? So, that's kind of that's kind of the basic story, right? King David was, he's not one, like I said in the beginning, he's not just any figure in the Bible, right? He's one of he's someone that lives on to this day through his greatest works, and arguably his greatest legacy he leaves behind was the book of Psalms, right? And during his spare time, King David would study the Torah, sing songs of praise to God, and the book of Psalms has been a refuge for the Jewish people in their times of trouble throughout history. And whenever Jews or Christians were in distress, they open up the book of Psalms and cry out to God, right? So if there's one last thing that King David really wanted, but he couldn't do, he really wanted to build the holy temple in Jerusalem as a dwelling place for God. But of course, Nathan the prophet told King David that it was not his destiny to build the holy temple because he spilled a lot of blood. He went to war a lot. But his son Solomon would build the temple. Nonetheless, King David wished to participate in any way he could, and so he instructed Solomon in the building process and procured the necessary materials for the construction. So King David was not only involved in the building of the first holy temple, but he will be involved in the building of the third, as the Messiah will be a direct descendant of King David, and he will take us, the Messiah comes to take people out of exile and build the final resting place for God and lead the Israelites to a world filled with peace and tranquility. So there it is, guys. That is the kind of the base, like the brief biography of King David. His story is way longer than this, obviously, but this is his brief biography. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that, just to see what type of life he went through. And I hope it's something that you guys can take notice to every time Sunsteam talks about King David also. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is the word study for today. We went over the story of King David. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that more than anything else. Which means what, guys? It means that it's time for today's song of choice. And today's song of choice is an old song. And this is one of the songs that actually started making Korean music and videos really popular. So this song is called from a group called Kiss. And the song is called Because I'm a Girl. And this is the first music video that became so popular, like around the world. People were crying because it was so moving, and I'll put the link in the description below. But this became super popular, and it started a trend of music videos where there was a story in the music video. It was, usually in the past it's just showing the people singing, right? And them walking through, and all you're doing is seeing these people singing. But this was the first time where they made like this movie style video with famous actors and actresses in it. And it became so popular, like it had millions of views even back then. So everyone, please welcome on this Korean Tuesday. This is a song from Kiss called Because I'm a Girl.
도대체 알 수가 없어 남자들의 마음 원할 땐 언제고 다 주니 이젠 떠난대 이런 적 처음이라고 너는 특별하다는 그 말을 믿었어 내겐 행복이었어 말을 하지 그랬어 내가 싫어졌다고 눈치가 없는 넌 늘 부채기만 했어 너를 욕하면서도 많이 그리울 거야 사랑이 전부인 나는 여자이니까 모든 걸 쉽게 다 주면 금방 실증내는 게 남자라 들었어 들린 말 같진 않아 다시는 속지 않으리 마음 먹어보지만 또다시 사랑에 무너지는 게 여자야 말을 하지 그랬어 내가 싫어졌다고 눈치가 없는 넌 늘 부채기만 했어 너를 욕하면서도 많이 그리울 거야 사랑이 전부인 나는
And there it is. That is Kiss Because I'm a Girl. You guys got to watch the music videos. I will post it there, and you're going to be like, oh, wow. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh. And, this is like probably 20 years ago. And you're going to look at it and say, whoa, no wonder people cried during this, because it's like so unexpected when you watch the whole movie video. But either way, I will post a link in the description below. Okay. So that leads us into the last segment for today, which is the question and comment. Now, this is something that I'm going to be honest with you guys. I told you in the very beginning, skincare is something that I think about a lot, because I was someone who had, didn't have very, very good skin. Actually, the interesting thing was, when I was a lot younger, like in elementary school to middle school, my skin was amazing. It was so amazing. I'll tell you how amazing it was. And this is something truthful I'm going to tell you right now, is that girls would always, like the older sisters in the church, they were always like 4, 5, 6 years older than me. They would come to me and always touch my skin. It's like, oh my gosh, your skin's so good. And they would even rub their face onto my face. Like, that's what it was like. And it was like, I think after puberty, when I hit 14 is when my skin started, not being very good. And it was, from that time on, it was like, I went from this kid where my skin was so good and the girls were always touching my skin, whatever it was, to someone like, I had a lot of acne and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, what I have to, it was something that was just, it was detrimental to me, honestly. And I would have a hard time looking in the mirror. And I just didn't, when my acne gets really, really bad, I just don't want to go out and hang out with anyone, right? Now it's far better, but a couple miracles that actually happened that I'm so thankful to God about. But I went through so many different types of skincare, like a lot, like so much to the point where I can't even think about how much money I spent altogether when it comes to skincare and stuff like that too. But yeah, I'm gonna first start off with what is my skincare routine right now. Okay, so some of you might get a little bit shocked, but I do have like 5, 6 steps in mind. It's not quite like the Korean 13-step, the glass skincare kind of thing. I don't really go that far. Well, I don't think I do. Okay, so there. Of course, everything starts off with when I wash my face, and I use a cleanser. And there's this one brand that I do swear by, that it's very inexpensive, but it's created by dermatologists, like several of them. So the one that I use the most when it comes to my skincare regimen is CeraVe, right? CeraVe is an American one, and it's if you do have the chance, check it out. They got so many different things on it, right? Like it's created by dermatologists. It's very, very cheap. It's got good good ingredients in it. Like, for instance, it has AHA and BHA. It's got essential ceramides, glycolic and lactic acids. Like, there's like a lot of the best quality stuff in there, and it's put in such a good amount of it. Like, some skincare products say it has a very good thing in it, but it's very, very small. So I use my CeraVe cleanser, and I use it for combination skin, right? From normal to oily skin. And one thing you do need to know about your skin is what type of skin do you have. There's like dry skin. Everyone knows what dry skin is, obviously, right? It's very tight. Your face is very tight. And then you have like oily skin. You know that it's like very oily and shiny all the time. And then you have like T-zone oily, which is, you're not oily on your cheeks, but it's mainly on your nose and your forehead, which a lot of people have. And then you also have combination skin. And combination skin is what I have. In the winter, I'm very dry, but I'm very oily in the summertime. So you can either use like a combination skin cleanser, or, when you're dry, you use a dry skin cleanser. And when you're oily, use an oily skin cleanser. I personally just use combinations. Cleansers good for combination skin, right? I don't know, guys. You guys can write down, when you comment on this, because I know there's a lot of girls and some guys out there that do care a lot about their skincare. Comment on what you use, like for the different parts I'm talking about. Like, my first step is cleanser, which is I use CeraVe, like normal to oily skin, right? And I really like CeraVe. Like, CeraVe is my favorite product. So you guys can, in your comments, write down your favorite product that you use, like favorite brand, sorry. And then on top of it, what is your regimen? Now, after that, I have my cleanser, and of course, I never rub the towel on my face. I always pat dry, and this is something good for you guys too. You don't want to damage your skin. My second part I use is a serum, Okay. And for my serums, I use this Canadian brand. And I'm not sure if you guys know it very well. It's called The Ordinary. And it's also a very good and cheap brand too. So I really, really like it. So at nighttime, I use this niacinamide 10% serum. Right, it's got zinc 1% too, but niacinamide's the thing that I really, really, that's worked a lot on my skin. Niacinamide 10%. Okay, so that's one that I would definitely recommend. But then at night, I change my serum to something called the Buffet, and it's got peptides in it, or copper peptides. Oh no, sorry guys. Let me redo that. I have my cleanser. In the morning, I use the Buffet with the copper peptides, and then at night, I use the serum niacinamide 10%. Right, so that's step 2. Step 3, of course, I have to put my eye cream on because, I'm over 40 and I've been doing eye cream for about 10 years now, but I should have done it much earlier, but it's recommended you put eye cream on since your 20s. It's better to do it earlier than later, right? And then, so that's step 3 is my eye cream. Step 4 is if I do have some spots, I will put a spot cream on. And then last but not least, I will have, it will be moisturizer. And my moisturizer, I don't use CeraVe for it because I've been using one that I really like. And it's a brand called La Roche-Posay. And mine, I use something called an Effaclar Matte. It's a matte, so it doesn't come out shiny. And I use this for my moisturizer. And I really like this one too. I tried other stuff. I always come back to it. I tried CeraVe too. It was okay. It was good, but it just wasn't quite as good as this La Roche-Posay Effaclar Matte, right? So it's for like, it shrinks your pores and it takes away the shine, right? So, and then, so that would be my skincare. So number 1 would be cleanser, 2 would be a serum, 3 would be eye cream, 4 would be like spot cream, 5 would be my moisturizer. Okay, so that's like my regular routine. And, and then, I give you kind of some of the ones I use. Now, on special days, of course, you have a mask or something like that, right? And I do use the Origins. There's like this mud mask I use, and I use that about just about once a week, right? Once a week. Which, oh, you know what? I forgot to tell. I left one of my things out. I did leave one out. I left out my toner. So I do have more than one. So I have cleanser, then my toner. My toner I use is something called the HABHA Clarifying Treatment Toner from CosRx. It's a Korean brand, and you can get it anywhere. Like you get it at Walmart here in Canada too. It's pretty cheap. This one's a cheap brand too, but I like this one. HABHA Clarifying Treatment Toner. So I go from my cleanser to my toner to my serum to eye cream, spot cream, and then moisturize. So I have 6 steps for mine, right? And it takes a good 20 minutes for me to do all this stuff at night. Now, on the days I do my mask, one thing I think a lot of people forget to do is people, after they cleanse, they put their mask on right away, but you need to prepare your skin first. So you need to put on your toner before you put on your mask. And I know a lot of people will already know this who are really into skincare, but a lot of people don't know it. So you put your toner on first. It balances your skin, the pH balance, and then you go into your mask. Now, so that would be like the mask would be a 7-step thing, and you put on for 15 minutes. You wash it off with like a warm towel, a warm wet towel, right? Now, after this, interesting thing is, there is another thing that I'll do on extra days. And this is something that I thought was a miracle that God gave to me in the past. There was a time when I was like 2009 or 8 when I was touring around Korea, and I've never been so exhausted, and my skin became like the worst as I'm preaching, right, and giving testimonies. And the craziest part was, my skin was so bad, I had like huge pimples, like the size of my entire cheek. And it was bad, guys, like really, really bad. And there was this one dermatologist from Korea, and he saw my skin and he told me to come in. And he did my skin once a week for 1 year for free. And his cost is like $400 per session. And he did everything from, the derma roller that has like needles on it, and you put it all over your skin and your skin's bleeding, and it basically sheds the outside skin and lets the skin underneath, the newer skin come out, and your skin becomes really clear. And he did that for an entire year. He gave me the whole skin process. Like after you do the derma roller, my skin was so red, and it was tough. Like I've never been through so much pain on a weekly basis for an entire year, but my skin completely changed from that. And this is why I do swear by a derma roller. And you could do it like, usually people do it like 2 to 3 times a week, and you can buy them online, and you just got to clean them really well, right? But it's like these little tiny needles that you can roll around your face so that it kills the dead skin cells on the outside and lets the under one, like the skin cells come out. So on those days, it's much different because I'll be like cleanser and then toner, and then I'll do the derma roller, and then I'll put my serum on, eye cream, spot cream, and then moisturizer. So it can turn up to in 8 steps, right? But it's not every single day I do those ones, but that is what I do. And because my skin is not good anyways, like some days I get so stressed I will start to flare up here and then. But I'm trying to figure out for you guys out there, comment below what's the regimen you use. What's the one brand that you would swear by? Like the one, for me, it's CeraVe. And then also on top of that, what do you guys, what is your top pick, your recommendation of a certain product, right? So for me, I would say of all the things here, one thing that I think people won't do a lot, especially when it comes to guys, is a serum. And I would recommend the Ordinary Niacinamide 10%, especially for those that have like skin problems, like acne and stuff like that. I think this is a really, really good one. Either way. So that is it, guys. That is question and comment. I would like you guys to comment. I know it's a little bit physical, but it's something that's important, especially as we become the quote-unquote face of God, the face and the brides of God, right? So everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think a lot of people do enjoy this one too, but tell me your skin regimen. Comment below. I'd love to hear it also. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is the end of today's podcast. Hope you guys had an amazing and awesome time, and I hope you guys will really be able to, comment. I'd love to hear from you guys too about anything, and we'll talk to you guys and see you guys tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive,